M, MBTV.
Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. I'm Commissioner Laura Dominguez, and I am here chairing the Public Safety and Neighborhood Quality of Life Committee. My colleague, Commissioner Kristen Rosen Gonzalez, is here, and Vice Chair Commissioner Fernandez will be here a little bit later. And joining me on the dais is the fabulous Stephanie Ray Brooks, and Assistant City Manager Mark Taxis, and Deputy City Attorney Rob Rosenwald. And are there any announcements?
There are no time certain or items deferred today. This meeting will be held as a hybrid meeting with members of the committee in person, and any members wishing to join via Zoom can, or they can dial in by dialing 312-626-6799. And those are all the announcements for today. We can begin our meeting.
Okay, so I guess we could start with number 2.
Okay. Item number 2 is discuss take action regarding concerns at the North Shore Branch Library, including the need for security or police presence, as well as repairs to the air conditioning system and broken window. And Facilities and Fleet will be presenting this item.
Yes. Hi.
Back in March of, in March 3rd, 2025, we went out and visited the location and noticed several items that were askew. The county itself is responsible for both the interior and exterior, and since that time, they have made several updates to the space in addition to cleaning the windows, cleaning the sidewalk and the facade of the building as well. They've updated the entire HVAC system. They've also acquired a guard that's on the inside, as well as coordinating with MBPD for additional patrols, et cetera, around the exterior of the building.
Well, that's the easiest item ever then. So so they made, I'm glad you guys followed up and got them to do the maintenance. And so everything's fine. They have new carpeting.
Yes.
They have a guard inside, because I got a lot of complaints that it was unsafe.
We'll also go through and do quarterly
You will?
inspections with them as well, just to make sure and keep them on their upper.
Thank you. By the way, I mean, like, I hate to give you more work, but you know, the library on 23rd Street, every now and then, you kind of have to give them a call too and say, look, it needs a pressure cleaning on the outside, or you could paint this.
Which one?
The 23rd Street Library also?
We actually have a program through the Asset Division under Facilities where we do quarterly inspections of all of the assets. Included in this item, the memo that we provided, we actually provide the copy of the inspection report that we did back in March that we used to communicate with the library. They actually closed down for 4 weeks to take care of everything, including the recarpeting of the interior, and they opened up last Monday.
Does it look much better now?
Much better, night and day.
Really? Wonderful. So then we can close.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We
got
welcome a
good
tour
news?
with you.
This is wonderful. Thank you. Okay, closing it out then. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Hey, Tanya. Long time no.
Okay, item number 1 will be the update, sorry.
Right. Item number 1 is monthly update on the status of the Fifth Street pedestrian bridge and the Mondrian Hotel Mirador Condominium Baywalks projects. This will be presented by CIP.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. David Gomez, Director of CIP. We were here last month and we provided an update on the Baywalks. We were asked to come back specifically with a couple of pieces of information. There was, as I had noted before, in the 1,000 to 1,200 segment of the Baywalk, a couple of items that the developer was not including. They are the installation of stairs at Mirador North as a connection point to the Baywalk, as well as railing throughout the length of the Baywalk. The cost, as reported by the developer, is $24,000 for the stair at Mirador North, and approximately $650,000 for the railing along the Baywalk.
I met recently with Find Commissioner Crowley. He wants to help. He said that there's money available and he wants to help. I think I might have done an email connect, so we need to follow up there. Also, at the last commission meeting, we've been getting updates on the Baywalk, and I feel that we've had progress since our discussion started. And I kind of feel that some of my colleagues were beating up on the Bay Walk, that nothing was getting accomplished, nothing was getting done, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We've been working on contracts and easements and agreements with individual properties, and we have made significant progress, and I appreciate you, because I know that you've been on top of it for that.
Thank you for saying that. I did want to point out that the beach walk did take decades to complete.
No, 20 years.
And it is entirely, with one exception, on public property. The Baywalk system, in contrast, is almost entirely on private property. So the negotiation of those agreements is actually very difficult. As you might imagine, a
Boards
property owner
change
doesn't
and
want to give up
visions
access.
change, and it's
Exactly.
been a nightmare. I know, because I've been with you on the Baywalk multiple times with property owners and hearing the changes. So.
And if I could take the privilege of congratulating the commission and planning for the efforts that they've put in and actually getting, I think with the exception of one property, a DRB or planning board order to get those segments included. So they've done an outstanding job.
Yeah, agree. Before we move on to the next item, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, did you have a comment?
I think you just answered my question. So there's only one property that hasn't signed the agreement?
There's one property that does not have an existing planning board or DRB order or hasn't already been completed, and it's actually the subject of the developer's property.
Oh, okay, wonderful. So that's gonna get done. Congratulations, Commissioner Dominguez. I'm excited about a Baywalk. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that update until July 9th. And any public comment?
The comments at this time.
Okay, 3.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 3 is discuss the capture and euthanization of iguanas pursuant to the Iguana Remediation Service Agreement. This was sponsored by Commissioner Bott, and Facilities and Fleet will be presenting.
You know, you run for office and you think you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to be discussing as an elected official. And the first time I was really surprised was when it was feral chickens and the fire department, and I'll tell that story another time. But that was one thing, and then here we are talking about humane treatment of iguanas. And the reason this came up is that a few months ago there were a couple of incidents where I guess a rogue operator was shooting iguanas in front of people and missing, and it was really traumatizing and unfortunate and, you know, not good for many, many reasons. I'm not super fond of the idea of using even a small gauge rifle or whatever the appropriate terminology is for shooting iguanas, even though I know that is an authorized usage. It just seems not great. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we are taking care of our residents and our visitors and making sure they're not seeing iguana euthanasia or murder or however you want to put it, and making sure for seriously that there's no mishap. I mean, one bad shot and somebody could have a really unfortunate story. So I'll turn it over to you and let's see if we can't make this better.
Right, so Madam Chair and Commissioners, what I'd like to do, Ron Mumma, Director of Facilities and Fleet, I'd like to have Tom say a few words. He's with Blue Iguana, who's our provider for the service.
Thank you. The Blue Iguana Pest Control is a holding company for iguana control, DBA iguana control. It also owns iguana leather and iguana chum, so we recycle as we go along. The 22nd resume is 16 years now, east and west coast of Florida, 30 men, 8 counties, largest, oldest company. In all that time, not one episode anywhere, anyone taping or complaining. FWC, of course, guides us in how we move and go about, but not an episode at all or an accusation of cruelty to animal. In spite of what we do, it's a necessary evil, and I agree with you. It's an aggressive procedure, you know, especially in public area. The men are trained in several methods. First of all, they go through, these are not firearms, of course. They're just air guns. The 22 caliber just designates how the diameter of the pellet. They go through a one-week training session with a gentleman named Richard Smith on Sterling Road, who's recognized across the country as a marksman, a safety trainer, trains police officers, and so on. So they get certified to make sure how they proceed. No one is motivated, compensated, given kudos on how many. It's a dangerous path to go. They're trained in what to do as they move onto a property, how to be discreet. We purchased these smaller, they call them PCPs. We paint them bright orange to make sure that helps. We put what's called a laser sighting onto them. And with company policy, they're prohibited from, first of all, walking around with it. It stays in what we call a sack, like a little gunny sack. When they see a target, they'll take it out, turn the laser on, and they're supposed to keep it at hip. No item is ever shouldered. It's an alarming stand to see that kind of a position. So it comes out, they turn the laser on, they remove the iguana, it goes into a bag and into the truck. Then taken back to the facility for skinning for the iguana leather, and then processing for iguana chum. That's the quick outline of what we do. Oh, yeah.
Who eats iguana chum? Fish.
Oh, fish, I'm sorry, fish
You didn't
bait.
eat iguana chum.
Yeah, it's iguana chum, it's fish bait.
It's raw meat is raw meat.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because one of the things that was alarming to this resident who reported this was that for this particular incident, the person, I guess the employee, missed. So it wasn't a dead iguana that was being put into the bag. It was a bleeding and unhappy iguana that was being put into the bag. I would not be a good marksman. I would suck at it. So I'm not casting aspersions, but can we make sure that if this is the best, safest way to proceed, and if we do still need iguana remediation, that they don't wrestle an iguana, a still alive iguana, into a bag in front of a park full of people?
Of course
Are
not.
are there times of the day that are better to, are iguanas out at different times of day that might be more conducive to not interacting with a bigger number of people? I mean, I know everyone gets up early to go for a run or whatever, but like, how do we make this less gross and distressing for residents and visitors?
I spoke with the gentleman that was involved in the episode, and on his behalf, he said he had removed it the right way, and even finally, while it was on the ground, finished another one. So when he picked it up, it was deceased to go into the bag, to be clear, because the men know how to proceed, especially in public areas. Iguanas are active from 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning till 5 or 6. They come out when people walk around and so on. So it's a very delicate matter on how to proceed on a property without, episodes like this. We service Miami Sea Aquarium in the industry of the care and nurturing of animals. The last thing anyone wants to see is something like that. Been doing Miami Sea Aquarium now for about 7 or 8 years, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, not one episode. It's a delicate balance on efficacy and, of course, being discreet. And the men know to weigh in favor of discretion before over, of course, trying to get it to corner. But that's the method that you have to use if you're going to be effective. Relying upon traps alone will never get you ahead of the curve. To the point that these bids come out. We have a bid for FWC for 30 miles of canals down in Key Largo. When these bids come out, and if they restrict the aggressive method, Blue Iguana Pest Control stays out of the bid, because I don't want to be attached to a program that I know from the beginning will not work. You can't get ahead of a curve on just trapping alone. Maybe 1 or 2 by a pool behind someone's home, but in this kind of large property that we're talking about, sadly, the aggressive methods almost required. Sorry.
Yeah.
As long as we have you here, I wanted to ask a question. Are we doing any remediation from the waterfront?
So we had a zone called waterways, and we had gone a few days along the waterways, taking videos and pictures. The problem with the waterways as they were first laid out is hunting it in itself is an exercise in a steady hand, patience, and so on. That's on solid ground. So imagine in a boat that's rocking, and you're sitting outside a home and area, and you're trying to shoot toward a public area, especially along the causeway, where people are on bikes and walking around. So we move the time, the payroll allotted to waterways to other areas to go on to. We still service the waterways, but from the land.
The only thing I would add is, Chad, come up. Chad is the president of the Venetian Islands Homeowners Association, if that's okay. through the chair.
Absolutely. Hi, Chad.
Chad organized iguana remediation for his entire neighborhood, and the most success that they've had happens to be from the water. Do you want to explain, Chad?
Yeah, so we have had success with water visits, and essentially we go around the islands and we use a snare, not a rifle. So, and you can just knock it into the water, and then when it's in the water, since they swim pretty slow, you can use a net to gather it.
Okay.
And it's quite cheap. The only thing that's cheaper for us is the air rifle in terms of cost per iguana. However, if we were a bigger neighborhood, like a whole city, the water would be much cheaper because a lot of the work is to put the boat in the water and the whole trailering and, you know, traveling to the place. Once you're there, you can get quite a few iguanas, and you go in the afternoon, you pick them off the side of the seawalls, and the other advantage of it is a lot of our residents are okay with the air rifles. Of course, our vendor does not use them if there's people around. So if there's kids playing in the backyard, then you skip that house. But for people who are unsure about air rifles, the water visits don't use that. So it's an option for residents that live on the water that want nothing to do with the air rifles.
So to counter out that, iguanas, go to YouTube, are not slow in the water by any stretch of the imagination, by any. They go down deep, and it's hard. Once they hit the water, in a pool, you're challenged. In a river or canal, again, not from my statement, from our experience, but Google it. Iguanas do not just hit the water and maybe stay on the surface. Now, if they're up on the surface, they may go slowly. But once they hit that water, they are gone. Number one. Number two, most of the trees, if you're in a boat moving around, the reach is so far. You may be able to knock it into the water, not to counter the gentleman's statements, but from my experience of 16 years, you might be able to knock it into the water, maybe. Typically, you can't because they'll run into the tree. So knock it into water, it gets into water, and it's gone. It's a horrendous waste of time and money from our experience doing this ourselves. The best way to come into it is, as I mentioned, wherever you have to go in by boat, most of the time you can access it by land. The properties that we saw, the Venetian Causeway area, for example, you access that by land. You don't have to be in a boat. Most of the property that we saw that we had gone throughout the waterway, you can get to it. It depends upon if it's a park then, and if it's a state park, well then of course you need a state's permission to get off the property.
Well, this could be a productive conversation because maybe we can have one company that's experts in land and another company that's experts in water and then work together, and you get the land area and the other company gets the water area. I don't know, just so that we're covering everything, because they seem to think that the most economical and efficient way to snare or snaring an iguana.
We can have the conversations.
So yes, so maybe you should definitely, I just wanted you to speak to him and have this conversation so that you can see the other methodologies that might work.
Yeah, I would not want to do waterway for my position of it's a waste of time.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner Bond, for bringing this item. I particularly feel that, you know, this has been an important contract, because even though it's only focused on public areas, you know, we do have a problem in our city with iguanas. So it's my understanding that the vendor has removed over 12,000 iguanas citywide since 2022. I think that's what the memo said.
I can speak to this year, but you're speaking
This year,
years ago.
it's
We've
about
been on,
700 this year, I think,
Yes.
right?
Sorry?
Yes,
This year, we've done about 700?
1,020.
1,000, okay,
And half of the month of March, we pulled back substantially because that was spring break.
okay.
So that was the first month, and we really didn't do, in all accounts, we hardly removed anything because of spring break and kids.
Do we have an estimate count of the population of iguanas? Is there any ways that we can project that? Do we have any mapping to evaluate whether the current contract is meeting citywide needs? Like what areas we're mostly focused in? Where are most of these iguanas coming from?
We do track monthly where our captures are.
Okay.
And so
what would you say is our most problematic area in terms of iguanas?
There are 34 locations altogether. Approximately 20 of them are parks. But for example, along.
But are we talking mid-beach? Are we talking the waterfront? Are we talking south? Like, do we have a heat map of that?
Yes, we do. It starts up at Crespi, it starts north, we have a north section, mid-section, and south section. The one property, for example, Dade Boulevard Canal, which was suggested by water, we do it by land. We are at, so far, on Dade Boulevard Canal, 66 that removed just from a small, it's a section of the canal that we labeled off till we could walk along it and remove them that way. But they're divided into a north, mid, and south territory. It covers from the northern county, city to the southern territory.
So, and which is great, you know, but, you know, I feel like most of the iguana complaints come from private property owners.
Sure.
And, you know, what's the plan to help residents more directly with their iguana issues? Can we expand services beyond city facilities, Ron?
Yeah, of course. What we do is, and it's posted on the website, that we offer a discount to homeowners who want to use it. The issue I feel with that, and this is really not the forum to introduce the idea, but every property has these many properties have this kind of a problem. And if they're on the water, it's even more prevalent. It's a worse situation. And the single mom or dad raising the kids, an income of $150,000 with a mortgage, can't afford to have iguanas removed, but they have the same problem. I'm looking for a venue where we can introduce something to the city where, as in many cases, the city offers certain help, where the city says, if you're in a certain, you fill out this form and your income is here and here's your problem, we'll donate a percentage, 20, 30% of the fee. We'll reduce our fee substantially so these other homeowners who typically can't afford this kind of a service can get the issue.
And what's the rate? Let's say, you know, a home, and let's just assume a home on a canal, because, you know, they do travel by water, as you've indicated. You know, a home 100 feet on a waterway.
So,
what is your rate on something like that?
We service all properties a minimum of twice every week, more if we have to. The standard non-discounted rate for the year is $2,400, comes out to about $24 a visit. But for Miami Beach residents, it dropped to $1,500, which is just under $15 a visit. I would like to see that even go lower, as I mentioned a moment ago, for those that really need help or in areas that are economically challenged, yet they still have the need. There's no reason that we can't bring the price even lower for those homeowners.
How many private property owners do you have participating?
In the 8 counties, we're on the east and west coast.
In Miami Beach. In Miami.
Oh, Miami, I would know that off the top of my head, I don't know.
I'm sorry?
I don't know, I have almost 2,000 altogether, but I can find out and get back to you on what it is just for Miami Beach.
Yes, that'd be helpful to know how many, I just, you know, because it's great that the city is doing this, but we really do need the private property owners to engage. Otherwise, you know, we're gonna be ineffective. I think it makes a small dent, but we're not gonna get the maximum effect unless we get homeowners involved. And I don't disagree. If it is a goal of the city to reduce the population, then perhaps we need to share in the costs.
Yep. I would like, and again, this may not be the place, but we used to have in the previous contract servicing the golf courses. And there are areas that we call incubators. These are areas where, like this name suggests, they're out of the way, no one sees them, and they just grow. Golf courses were always on our list, but they were removed for this program, and we can remove, I forget which courses.
I'm sorry, what was going on in the golf courses?
The golf courses are an incubator.
Right.
So it allows them to grow unabated. And they're not on our list for this program.
They're not in our list for, why
They
are they not?
were, but they were removed.
Why were they removed, Ron?
I think it was just based upon the volume that we had at an initial time or period of time.
The volume, what do you mean? Why?
We weren't trapping as many at one point in time, so.
So we're
we
being
just
told that
dropped
that
them
is
from
the
list.
incubator for the iguanas.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Good afternoon. We started to see less iguanas on the golf courses at some point. Then we scaled back their service levels. We amped up in certain places and then scaled back in others.
So what we're doing is monthly, we're tracking where these hotspots are at, and so we'll add and change as needed as we see the effect across
And
the
based on the
city.
complaints that we're getting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I guess key indices for residents when they're seeing these to be reporting it so that we can allocate our resources and put them where residents are seeing them most.
And we're in constant communication, so we're always adjusting those areas.
Chad, do you have any other comments?
Yes, I have to respectfully disagree about the water visits, because we collect data, so we know how many we get per visit. But to speaking to other ways to get them that's less invasive for the beach, would also be hatchlings, to get them during hatchling season. So you can really walk up to bushes and just grab them out of the bushes, no air rifle. You walk around with a flashlight and you can get quite a few babies that way. And since I know, it's calling programs though, that's not easy.
I'm drinking my iguana juice today.
I know. But it is you can walk around and get quite a few just going from bush to bush during that season. So getting a little creative with it is another option. Speaking also to accessing by land, for private properties, that's quite difficult because the private properties are adjoining. So you can't, you need to have property approval to walk on. So what we do is we have approvals for each house that's okay with that in the neighborhood. Maybe that's something that could be done citywide, or maybe different neighborhood associations can get together and help with that. But the other option would be is if there's, I know with the mosquito control, there was some ability to access properties, but that's something depending on how critical you feel it is something to think about. I do think the happy medium is water access respectfully, but.
Well, it's a conversation that, we can have. As 1,000 iguanas in a year, I was thinking we were going to be way above that. Is that making a difference?
That's since the end of March.
Oh, just since the end of March, you've gotten 1,000. Have you seen a difference in the population? We stopped getting complaints. I stopped getting emails from Ms. Savitz. We have an iguana committee, don't we?
Yes. It's not a very active committee. I spoke with Alyssa from the committee, and I think, they feel, I think the committee feels that we need to do more, that, this is a good program to have, but that if anything, more needs to be done to supplement this program. And so, because I just feel that the feedback I'm getting from them is that it's a good program, we need to continue the program, but it's not making as big of a dent as they thought it would create. And I think that in large part is we're focused only on public property. We don't have as much private property participating, if I had to guess, as we would want. And frankly, when I'm hearing that golf courses are incubators, would you recommend that we be in golf courses, sir?
Oh, highly, of course, yes.
But we're not in there right now. And, to me, that's concerning. I'll tell you, I live across a golf course, and what I see out there are dinosaurs. All right? We're talking about iguana rex, these are big, scary looking things out there, and they're sunbathing and they're pooping in our pools, and, it's gross, so, I feel, maybe we got to go back, start looking at these facilities like golf courses that are the incubating grounds, and we're not covering it right now.
Well, look, the Venetian Islands is doing a really good job. Like, Chad, overall, have you seen a big difference? We just want to understand the model, because here you're seeing a neighborhood that band together. They're each house is paying, I think you said $30 per month, correct?
$50 per month.
$50 per month, and they're attacking it from the water, and they're taking away tremendous amounts of iguanas. So, I mean, I'm not saying not doing what you're doing. I'm saying adding to potentially. I don't know what our overall iguana budget is, but if we do need to do more and you're not seeing a difference and the committee is not seeing enough of a difference, then we could potentially, I would love for you to speak with Chad, have a conversation, and possibly, I know that this item was about how, but under this item, I would love to find out how to increase some of what we're doing to tackle the problem.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
Are you guys up in North Beach at all, like Parkview Island, not necessarily on the island itself, but the green areas leading up to the island?
Yes.
Okay, because the iguana rexes are up there as well, and they're very happy up there, well-fed, large, breeding. I have to say, one of my favorite vendors in my previous life told me a story that I repeat often, which is he sold a service, people used it, they were very successful with it, then they would call after a few years and say, hey, I'm having the same problem again. And he said, well, what's changed? I see you're not using my service anymore. And they said, well, it's worked so well, we didn't think we needed it anymore. So, you know, I think that if the golf courses are incubators and we are also not seeing the same kind of decrease or not seeing the kind of decrease we'd like to, perhaps we should go to where the babies are hatching and get that back on the program. So I guess let's bring this back in a month or so to see.
Give you an update.
Give an update
Absolutely.
and see if there are other sort of things we can add or reconfigure within the existing contract and let you guys all have a chance to talk.
Good.
Does that work for everybody?
So next month, just like an update?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Item 12.
Okay, item number 12 is monthly updates on the status of ongoing and future projects involving the use of the Leonard Horowitz color palettes in Art Deco building restoration in collaboration with Barbara Hulinicki. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and Facilities and Fleet will be presenting.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
How are you?
Good, very good, thank you.
All right, so.
Yeah, so quickly, the update, I think everyone can remember from the last update, ocean rescue has been completed. I think we've gotten a lot of great feedback about that, so that's a plus, I think. Anchor Garage is next on the list, which is scheduled for completion by the end of July. So we're making good progress there as well.
That's so cool. Okay, so by the end of July, the Anchor Garage is big because, I mean, it's a huge facade. It does, it doesn't look as big as it actually is. So when you paint it, it's really going to pop. I'm so excited. Okay.
Good. Colony Theater is next. We are currently working on updating the windows, impact glass there. So what we'd like to do is get that completed first before we move on to the painting. That would put us the windows in October of 2025 and then finishing up painting in November of 2025.
Have you guys ordered the awnings yet for the colony so that I would go ahead and order them because, otherwise you'll finish everything and then you've got to order the awnings. I'd like to see it for the holidays.
13th Street Garage is on the list next, anticipated to be completed by August 15th as well. So see some good progress here in the next 30, 45 days. Miami Beach Band Shell is the last one on our list. We are working in tandem with CIP. Once they complete their work, we'll go ahead and continue to plan and paint for that location.
I had a question. I saw the list that you guys had given to the city manager. Thank you. It was very organized. And I saw that the South Shore Community Center and Old City Hall didn't fit the Leonard Horowitz palette. But are we going to repaint it with something else? And if so, which palette? Did we speak to planning to get a recommendation of which palette? Because we got the direction to paint it. They just didn't like the colors that we were using. So both of those buildings do need a paint job. I mean, I see the extensive concrete work that you guys are doing on Old City Hall, which, by the way, makes me so happy to see that work getting done.
Yeah, good afternoon. So the South Shore Community Center was actually, which is a brutalist style of architecture, was actually repainted recently, and then as you stated, the Historic City Hall at 1130 Wash is currently undergoing a facade restoration project, and the contractor is painting the facade as he goes, and that's of course in the Spanish Revival style of architecture that's not entirely appropriate for the Leonard Horowitz color scheme.
Okay, then. I'm okay with that. Right? We can close out until next month. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so that one was number 12, and we're going to bring it back next month.
I'm calling Tom.
Huh?
13.
Yeah, but I'm trying to see. The person who wanted that item left the... Okay, item 13, yeah.
Okay, item number 13 is discuss Parisian style theatrical performances like burlesque and cabaret shows. This item is sponsored by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and planning will be presenting. And
So item 13, Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez, did you want to tee it up?
Well, in the spirit of a true supper club, we want vaudeville and Moulin Rouge style shows in Miami Beach. You know, these nightclubs are transforming themselves, and they need an elegant, sophisticated style of entertainment, like these Parisian style shows. So are you going to be presenting on this, Mr. Andrade?
Good afternoon, committee members. I think we presented the last time around. I think we did a little video presentation, and the request today was simply to move the item to the commission, so that in between that and first reading, we can meet with the city attorney's office and work out for language that would create an exemption for burlesque. The problem is, in the code that's currently written, it contemplates essentially strip clubs, right? We're not a strip club. We're not trying to be a strip club. But unfortunately, the way the language is written, the definitions, it captures, you know, activity which it's not intended to capture. So this is, you know, an adult type of entertainment for folks that want to go out to have dinner, see a nice show, and something for, you know, adults to do in the city and visitors. So it's a simple request, I think, and we would just like to move it to the commission and discuss it further with the city attorney's office as to appropriate language for what that exemption looks like.
Okay, I'll move the item.
Do you have any show and tell?
Second.
Any show and tell today? No show and tell?
No show and tell.
Wait, you want a burlesque?
Number 4.
okay, item number 4 is review and discuss design proposed by Washington Avenue bid as Phase 1 of the Washington Avenue 2018 Geo Bond Corridor Project. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and GOB will be presenting Thais Vieira.
Okay, Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez.
So I know that we have a contractor and a design team and proposed designs, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have chosen for something iconic on Washington. Let's see. Where are you guys in the process?
Maybe just a brief introduction to the item. The 2018 Geo Bond has a $10 million allocation for Washington Avenue. Scope of work is upgraded lighting, enhanced landscaping, other creative placemaking enhancements to promote a safer and more engaging urban environment. The bid, they've come up with some ideas, and Troy will be presenting those ideas today on behalf of the bid. What the administration recommends is engaging with an urban design firm to develop a cohesive plan for Washington Avenue with the allocated GeoBond funds, but on a parallel path, collaborate with the bid on the implementation of some of the quick wins from their list. He's going to go over those items in detail, but the two that we're recommending to move forward right now will be the artistic monument letters in front of the Feinberg Fisher School and the historic markers. And I should note that on a parallel path, FERC has made a recommendation to the City Commission to proceed with sidewalk replacement on the 2 blocks between Lincoln and 15th Street with brick pavers. And that item will be heard at commission at the June meeting. The estimated cost for that, based on Public Works estimates, was about $1 million. So with
Just for that one corner?
for the 2 blocks,
2 blocks?
with the brick pavers.
I'm really hoping everybody funds but the funding is there from the Geo Bond,
From the
correct?
$10 million allocation.
You know, one of the reasons I was on Ocean Drive the other day, and I was looking at how awful the sidewalks looked, how beaten up and disgusting, and in some places painted, and they were scratched and they were chipped. And we brought this whole idea to the Art Deco Center, and then they were like, no, we don't want it right now. We want the whole project, and I don't know when we're going to get the whole project. So the reason why this is so pivotal for us to do those 2 blocks is so that the rest of the historic district can see it and then say, we want it to. And sometimes you just have to start with something. So, I mean, I'm excited. I can't wait to see this sign. Troy, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Troy Wright, Washington Avenue Business Improvement District. I'll quickly go through the outline. I'm sorry?
Just wait for the.
Okay, yeah.
Come up on the screen.
Quickly, excited about showing you what we have planned. If we can go ahead and start. There we go. So let's begin. Pretty quick, what we're looking for is to, I think we jumped a little further ahead. There we go. To begin, there are 5 different phases of our plan. One is called Art in the Heart of Washington Avenue, which are sculptures down the median of the avenue. The second is a signature welcome signs on 5th and 17th in Washington. Historic lifeguard markers, which really play homage to leaders of Miami Beach, entertainment and politically. Artistic monuments, which are giant sculptures to be in front of Feinberg Fisher School. And then the smart LED pedestrian enhancement, which would complement the new sidewalks as we move forward. So here's how it looks. Basically, our goal is to have 24 artistic sculptures down the median. I'll show you a picture of them. However, these, I guess, they are not necessarily what we're looking for. It's a part of an idea to have international sculpture artists. Some of the best sculpture artists from all around the world compete in a contest to create the 24 sculptures that we want on Washington Avenue. Typically, they're done on a smaller scale of competition, but this would be a worldwide competition. So we say, why do we want it worldwide? Well, because we want to bring worldwide attention to not only Washington Avenue, but Miami Beach. So this contest would, and we know some sculpture artists already who would love and are waiting to figure out how they're going to be able to participate in this sculpture design. It's all about beautification. The other piece is welcome signs on 5th and 17th in Washington Avenue. It's long overdue. In every corridor or every avenue of the city, there's some kind of recognition of who and what they are. But however, there's nothing for Washington Avenue. Now, these are just options, things that we saw that would fit. Obviously, one is more Art Deco-ish, and the other is more flash. But to have some sort of welcome sign that people know and realize once they turn left on 5th and Washington or right on 17th Washington, heading down the avenue, that they'll have something that signifies where they are. The third are lifeguard markers. So similar to what happens in Los Angeles, we know that there are the stars placed in the sidewalk there, but we have put together a list of 10 different people that we would like to recognize who've done great work on Washington Avenue, such as Jackie Gleason, Prince, Deanna Conley, Muhammad Ali, and there are Versace, Mark Simoleon, and others who have really contributed a lot to the growth of Washington Avenue. So these historic markers will go across Washington Avenue. For example, on 5th and Washington, you'd see the marker for Muhammad Ali. On 17th, you would see the marker for Jackie Gleason, and so on. The other component are monument letters. They are 13 feet letters to go in front of Feinberg Fisher School. These are very artistic and they're photographed, and they will also be a signal to the rest of the world where you are. It's not just Miami Beach, it's also Washington Avenue, and people can come, and as sports teams come and view Miami Beach or Washington Avenue, this will serve as a great backdrop for Instagrammable moments and just pictures in general, but it will also enhance the beauty of Washington Avenue. So this is a further breakdown of what it looks like. And then the last to sort of coincide with the new sidewalks that we hope that we'll figure out what's going to happen there. We were looking at doing some form of smart pedestrian crossing, these LED pedestrian crossing pavement lights. So it would add a little more spice to the avenue, unlike any other place. Now, these are commonly used typically in Brazil and in Asia, but I think they would be a nice enhancement on Washington Avenue. So our cost is not that high. It's only $4.8 million in comparison to the $10 million that's there. But these are enhancements that will leave a long-lasting effect. And I think it's time that we do more bold moves on Washington Avenue, because as I've always said, as Washington Avenue goes, so does Miami Beach. And those who will debate that can always look at history and see that as Washington Avenue has succeeded, so has Miami Beach. So this would be a great opportunity to really take a lasting and legendary move to make sure that Washington Avenue looks beautiful. And lastly, this is not really a part of our proposal, but we thought we'd throw it in there anyway. It would be nice to have some form of beautiful gondolas going down Washington Avenue. I know that's a reach, but I had to show it to you anyway. But it's just something nice that we would think would be a nice enhancement. So that's just a quick overview of what we're looking at for the avenue, and that's that. And it's funny because some of the things like the gondola obviously is not a part of our goal, but we're just looking for other ways to enhance the avenue. And the things that we propose so far, the markers, symbolic, the monument letters, symbolic, the activations down the middle, very much needed for beautification. As we know, the FIFA World Cup is coming in less than a year, and our goal would be to begin a competition worldwide as soon as possible. That's the short end of it.
Thank you for that package. Very interesting things and nice commemorations.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Rosen,
Yeah,
Commissioner.
yeah.
No, go ahead. Why don't you go? Fernandez.
Yeah. And thank you, Troy. I think Washington Avenue is one of our most vital commercial corridors. It's rich in history, has great potential and great opportunities for public life. I know we have the $10 million in GLB funds to revitalize the safety, the pedestrian activity, the quality of life in the area. So I think it's good to advance quick wins, such as the monument letters. What other elements of this plan does the administration recommend us advancing?
So the other item that we're recommending at this point are the historic markers that he mentioned. Those are the medallions that would go on the sidewalk.
Okay, so we would be looking to advance, the staff recommendation is quick wins, the monument letters and the historic markers. I think that's great, particularly in advance of the FIFA World Cup. It's something that we can deliver, it's tangible progress that we can show to the community. Have the cost estimates provided by the bid been verified by city staff?
No, we have not had a chance to vet those numbers yet, so we would do that as a next step. These are the smaller dollar values of those items on their list. I think they're at 250,000 is what you had estimated each of those to be. So we would have to vet those numbers before.
Okay, and so I know through the GeoBond process, we approved $10 million. Do we know what is the current balance after previously approved expenditures?
We spent about just over $200,000 so far, and that was part of the design fee of the Discovich Vision Plan. That was for the entire Art Deco Cultural District.
Okay, and the urban design consultants, is that needed for the quick wins, or is that part of a longer vision?
No, we believe that we could move forward with the quick wins without the consultant. The urban design firm would come in to really come up with a plan for the rest, how to utilize the rest of the GeoBond funds in a cohesive way.
Okay, and just a couple more points. This is a historic district. Clearly, anything that occurs here will have to go for review before the Historic Preservation Board. Has there been any conversation regarding these historic medallions or the placement of the letters? Have we received any feedback, whether it be from the board or from our planning department, on its contextuality to the area?
I had a preliminary conversation with the planning department just to confirm that these items would indeed need to get HPB approval, and yes, they will. So we would have to present the package to the committee. So we will work with the planning department in preparation for that to come up with a good plan for the presentation.
Okay. Well, in general, I like the direction in which Troy is taking this conversation. We align in the spirit with our vision for a more engaging streetscape. I do agree with the administration, with the recommendations sent to us by the administration. I think it strikes the right balance between honoring the vision and also ensuring long-term cohesion in a cost-effective implementation, so that we really do have something for FIFA. Part of the broader vision, long-term, anything that's a welcoming sign, especially in this part of the city. We're not welcoming people to Washington Avenue or to Lincoln Road. We're not welcoming people to Collins Avenue or Ocean Drive. We're welcoming people to a nationally designated Art Deco district that we are engaged in a campaign with the GNCVB and others to promote this national district, the largest collection of Art Deco buildings. And I really do feel very strongly that it's good to have your monument letters as a way of placemaking. I like the idea of the historic markers, but Washington Avenue doesn't live on its own. Just how Ocean Drive doesn't live on its own. Neither does Lincoln Road. This is part of a nationally designated district, and we need to celebrate that to counter the effects of the attacks on these historic buildings. We need people who are there to know not only are they on Washington Avenue, but they're in a very unique place in architectural history for its significant collection of these Art Deco buildings. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Well, Troy, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm excited about the transformation of the sidewalk on those blocks, but that right there is $1 million. And with $5 million, we could do 10 whole blocks, like transform the whole street. You know, we have to, I'm just saying, I know, like, I don't want to like rain on your parade. I would say that I like the sign, but the letters are so far apart. I think you need to put them closer together so people can actually, it's tough with, I don't know how you're going to get everything into like an Instagram shot. You're going to have to figure out how to place those letters and where to place them so that you can take one picture with it. Because if you have the letters like so far apart, it's going to be tough. You know, you'll get like a W, like a WA in there, you know, but maybe not the whole Washington Avenue. I'm okay with the markers too, but here's the thing. If we're going to eventually replace the sidewalks, do we want to put a marker into a sidewalk that we're going to replace? So, you know, I don't think we can do that. Now, I do like the idea of the LED crosswalks, but maybe we just do one, 12th Street or something, do a rainbow one at 12 so that there's like a, you know, rainbow walk. You look so disappointed. It's not that we don't want the sculpture tournament, and certainly it's not that we don't. It's just we're in a situation right now where we're realizing that we're not going to continue to have the same type of property appreciation that we have, right? And so these capital dollars, I mean, first of all, the longer we wait with capital dollars, the more expensive it gets. So, you know, at the end of the day, this time is money. What we had in purchasing power in 2018 in today's dollars is like worth like 60%. It's really bad. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if it was up to me, I would go all infrastructure. You know, these are like bells and whistles once you have everything beautified. So I would go with the sign. And, you know, and because this, you know, Lincoln Road started with a sign like that, right? And, you know, and they get a lot of tread from that. And by the way, that iconic sidewalk, I mean, I want to do everything. I wish that we had the money to do all of this stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. While I agree with staff's recommendation about the historic markers being a quick win, the reality is, to your point, if we are looking at a broader infrastructure project, which we are looking at replacing sidewalks in the long term, we're putting money into something that will eventually be removed.
But if you want to, put one marker in the new, put the mark, Samuel in, marker. Well, or Commissioner Dominguez, if you want, in, you know, on the Washington, when you do it, if you can figure out how to get it into the papers, because it's not really cement.
Yeah, we believe that we could probably, I would have to look into it, but we could probably relocate, you know, when the time comes to redo sidewalks, if that is the direction that we
Yeah,
we
but
have.
to do $250,000 for something that we're gonna redo, I find
But
that
it
that
would be
would
removing
be
and reusing
irresponsible.
that, some, you know, in a different, because it's
True,
it's
but you
within
got the
flag.
labor to cut that out, then you have to repave it. I mean, you know, I don't think it's so, if you guys are gonna cut through any concrete, do not hear me wrong on this. If we were gonna be paying workers to be working with concrete, I would be paying you to fix the chips and the scratches and everything else that is necessary when you walk that historic district and you look at the quality of the sidewalks. Like, how can we justify that? That's my only question. You know, there's so many other things. So,
Commissioner,
Can
I
I-
would
can I
suggest
add-
for us to entertain a motion to advance the staff recommendation for select quick win projects in collaboration with the bid. And while simultaneously retaining a consultant, you know, someone who is qualified in urban design to develop the long-term cohesive plan for Washington Avenue. I think staff recommendations was on point. We need quick wins, and I think the one that is most appropriate, the best long-term investment where we're not gonna be putting money into something that then is gonna be, you know, taken out is the welcome sign. Not the welcome sign, I'm sorry, the
Well,
artistic monument letters.
I think the welcome signs are good too. I would do the welcome signs and the monument letters, because the welcome signs, all of a sudden, that's paradigm changing. Like, you put up the signs right at Palm View, we
I
just,
can't support them. That
No?
I won't support, because I think what we need to welcome people to is the nationally designated Art Deco district.
so you don't want to welcome people to Washington Avenue?
I think then we're gonna have to welcome people to Lincoln Road. They're gonna want a welcome sign. Then they're gonna want one on Ocean Drive. Every street is gonna want one. This is a district. I
Okay,
think,
so we
and-
do
yeah.
need historic district. So I would move forward with finding a design to mark our historic district, which is what we're gonna put up everywhere. That's smart. Using a little bit of that money to come up with the historic district sign. And then the artistic monument letters, but maybe not as something that can all be Instagrammed into one so that you can brand Washington Avenue.
Well, you know, really quick, there are signs that do welcome other neighborhoods. When you step into South of Fifth, there's a sign. It's not exclusive just
that's
to
a
Washington.
neighborhood, not a
Now,
street.
I understand that, I get it. And it doesn't have to necessarily just say Washington Avenue, but some form of welcoming. I guess what we're looking at is trying to change the image and really beautify Washington Avenue. And the longer we wait, we know the more it's going to cost. And so even with the sculptures down the middle, to me, that is a pretty quick and easy thing to do, but, you know, with
But
the
even with
monument.
the sculptures, Troy, even there, you know, it's not as simple, because you're talking about art in public places at that point.
Right.
And that is a process with the Art in Public Places Committee. I love the passion in the presentation, and I think, but I think, you know, we can't always approve everything that comes forward, but I think there are elements of it that we can advance. And I think that the element of it, the monument letters, I think that's something you've been working on for a long time, in partnership with the school. And I think that is such a quick win. It creates a sense of placemaking. It's something beautiful that people can photograph the way that they do on Lincoln Road, the way that they do on Ocean Drive with the Miami Beach sign. That is consistent with what we are doing in other areas of the city.
Is the sign gonna be lit at night? I think it should be illuminated
will be,
at night.
yes.
Is that why it's 250? Because I was wondering. Okay, that's beautiful then.
So while we're wrapping this up, Washington Avenue needs help, and we have done some with the lighting, and these are some other things where it's quick wins. But to the extent that we can do more to help Washington Avenue, I think it needs it. It's a corridor that has pockets that are so incredibly special, whether it's the Espanola Way section or on the east side, where we have now robust hotels and businesses. And then somewhere in between, we have pockets where there's issues. And so I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help you. I know how hard the bid works, you work, and so to the extent that we can do the quick wins and more, I think we should. We really, really should.
Yeah, anything we can do to help the avenue would be great. I mean, if we close our eyes and look back 5 years ago, Washington Avenue was a dump. Yes, we still have a lot of issues today, but remember, 5 years ago, there was no Good Time Hotel, there was no Moxie, there was no Vendome, there was no Esme, there was no Queen, there was no M2, and then there's no Thompson. There's a lot of things that are transforming around us. So the little bit that we can do down the median or to the side to really accent those special
And we're bringing
places.
Nathan's back, and we have a pop-up opening up on 12th.
Right, it just opened.
Wanderlust.
They did, right. Wanderlust is opening tomorrow. We have over the next month and a half, we have like 7 new restaurants / bars / new Cuban music coming to Washington Avenue. There's a lot happening. Although it's dead and dread in other places on Miami Beach, and I feel sorry for those areas because we're all in a family. But yes, Washington Avenue has vacancies, but we're still growing. There are people that are coming to Washington Avenue. Now, do we agree with all of the places? But we're still growing. We have new restaurants, bars, and whatever that
And I
really
think
want
no
to
one can
participate.
argue the merit, but I think we also need to look at our resources. You know, you can't expect every time that you come here that we're going to always be able to deliver and say yes. You know, and I think that that's a real conversation that everyone that's listening needs to understand. I think the precedent has been set where people expect that they just come here with a presentation, they're going to automatically get a yes, a rubber stamp to whatever presentation they bring, because we do want to be incredibly supportive. But you know, while I understand your disappointment, you know, there is a reality, which is limited funds that our city has and long-term visions, and we can't shortchange, you know, long-term vision and a comprehensive plan for short wins.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
that's more-
disappointed. I'm not, really, I'm not. I mean, this is very thoughtful. I'm not. My goal is to beautify Washington Avenue, to make
shared
Washington
goal.
Avenue a better place. So what I propose, do I expect to get everything? No, not at all. However, I am positive. when
And
I
by the
step
way,
forward.
it's our shared goal, because this is why we trust the bid. This is why we authorize the bid. This is why the bid is a partner of the city, an entity created through support of the city commission. So it's not just your vision, it's our shared vision,
Right,
our
I
collective
agree.
vision. It's why we put the lights on Washington Avenue. You came here, you asked for the lights. Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, you were very vocal about the lights, and we got the lights.
And they
Thank
look
you.
great.
And they look
amazing.
great.
They do look great.
And they-
Like, for
so-
example, I would rather like focus on getting you better lights, or Commissioner Fernandez, is there anything that we can do to convince you about some welcome signs?
No. Our Art Deco district is under attack. There's one thing that Miami Beach needs to brand. It's not, Washington Avenue is not under attack. Ocean Drive is not under attack. Lincoln Road is not under attack. Art Deco is under attack.
I agree that
and
we
I
need
am
to get those
adamant, and
signs
I am
out.
not going to move from that position, that what we need to brand today more than ever is the 800 buildings that make part of our nationally designated historic district, and any signage out there to welcome anyone to anything should be creating that awareness that they are in a special area, in a historic district that is the Art Deco Historic District.
Okay, so should we move the sign
To the full
to
commission.
the full commission? So we're getting the sign, the iconic artistic sign, and also move to the full commission approving to use a small portion of this money, small, toward a design to brand the Art Deco Historic District. And we'll, it's baby steps, we're getting there. And we're doing the sidewalk, which is pretty cool, It's,
Okay, let's get to the full
Again,
commission.
anything we
Thank
can
you
do
so
to help
much,
Washington
everyone.
Avenue, I am for it.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to help.
we're with you. We wish we had
Yes,
more
we
to,
want
I
support.
love the LED crosswalks. I love them.
Okay, thank you so
And
much.
by the way, we just invested, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
Number 7.
You invested for the Wilsonian. We've done investments on Washington Avenue with the other cultural entity on Washington Avenue. We've done investments. There's been a lot of investment, directly and indirectly, a lot of investments by the city, because we recognize how important it is. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you. Item number 7 is discuss a suitable location for a kayak launch in North Beach. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, co-sponsored by Commissioner Suarez. Parks and Rec and Environmental and Sustainability will be presenting the item.
Hi there, John. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Commissioner. I'm John Rebar, Parks and Recreation Director. And the staff is very supportive of finding an alternative location for a kayak launch or a non-motorized vessel launch up in North Beach. It's unfortunate that the one that we have currently is not currently usable. However, one thing, working very closely with the Resiliency and Sustainability Department is we want to make sure that every possible place we look at, we look at water quality right up front. Because we don't want to get in the same situation we were before. And also parking is so important. Because years ago, we did a Blue Ways master plan, and there was all these areas of interest that were identified, but there just wasn't adequate parking to create a public facility. One spot that I think we do like to examine further is the P100 lot, which is at a parking lot which is at 81st and Hawthorne. If everything tests well there, it already has the parking that we're looking for. So I'd like some direction. We'd like some direction on if there's any other areas you'd like to suggest, or staff could focus on maybe this parking lot and report back to.
So Parkview Island had submitted some suggestions. This may be one of them too. Did you look into the other suggestions they provided?
One of the other ones, and oh my goodness, I forget which waterway it was. There was some water quality concerns with that site, one of their suggestions.
Okay.
Because it's actually connected with, the water's connected with the Parkview Island kayak launch now.
Oh.
So there's some water quality concerns, where this P100 lot doesn't seem to have those concerns.
Okay, so the city is comfortable with that. What do you need to hear from us to move forward, to bring it to the full commission? What would be the next step?
I just want to make sure from Lindsay, did I miss anything from your shop?
No, that touched on it. We did look at the Tatum Waterway. We have a sampling location about halfway through the canal. Unfortunately, it is farther away from the area that the Parkview Island Sustainable Association asked us to look into. And there isn't suitable parking in that area as well, in addition to the water quality concerns.
So to move forward with P100, what do we need to do now?
So it would be part of the budget process. It would be a recommendation of this committee for administration and to consider this during the FY26 budget process of the capital project. We might be able to split it into phases, maybe, for funding.
How much is it?
Is to do the permitting and design, because that takes a while.
Right, I would estimate probably approximately 250,000 for design and permitting. And then we would, during that process, get construction estimates.
What's a projected timeline, Madam Chair? With Durham, with the Department for Environmental Protection, I imagine we have to go to the Army Corps. So what's the estimated timeline once we get this budgeted?
It's probably about a 24-month permitting.
24 months.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't even.
So so we should get this once we have it budgeted. So we really want to do this. We're really serious about doing something. We should start budgeting it now.
Rob, how do we do this to get it to the budget? There's a budget retreat in July. I think it's July 11th, but our commission meeting is the 25th. Can I send this from here to the budget retreat for discussion?
Let me find out and I'll get
Okay.
back to you.
In the meantime,
So that would be the intent, to send this for consideration to the budget retreat. Then if it's not, then it'll go to the.
So I have a question because we have the kayak land launch right now. That one is
In
closed
Parkview.
in Parkview. That one's closed because of the recurring water quality levels.
It's not safe.
It's not safe. Our hope is that we continue to see incremental improvements on the water quality in the area. At which point, hopefully, we could reopen that kayak launch. So, assuming that, let's say we got the water quality back to where it needs to be there. Is it beneficial to have two kayak launches so close to each other? Should we still be moving forward with this?
I believe that would be at the discretion of the commission. I do think that there is a value to the community in having several options. But in terms of budgeting and need in the community, I think that would be at your discretion.
I'm supportive.
Okay, wonderful. Public comment?
Yes. Larry Schaefer, if you could please unmute yourself, you have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Larry Schaefer, 233 81st Street. I just want to say or propose two locations. You may have already looked at them, and they may have some parking issues, but they are ideas to consider. At 69th Street, there is a fire station and there's water access there. And immediately to the north, there is a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with a large parking lot that's not used all the time. Now, I know that's not a public lot, but there is parking and there is water access. And I'm not sure 69th Street and the Bay, which isn't on a canal or anything, it's more open water, may test better more frequently, but we can ask Surfrider about that. The second possible location, once again, is going to involve some discussions with private landowners, is Byron and about 87th, where there's a very large vacant waterfront parcel owned by the Catholic Church. And if that could somehow do a partnership with them. But yes, that the area that was identified on Hawthorne is out at the western side of Biscayne Beach. And that parking lot is owned, as staff said, by the city. I'm just wondering how much demand there is for that location from residents. It's a little bit out of the way from the main part of North Shore that's towards the beach. Thank you.
Any comments on that?
No comments on that. We can take a look at those sites. Just clarification in preparing the commission memo. Is the committee recommending like a phase funding in that the first request will be for the $250,000 for design and permitting, since that will take up to 24 months? And then the construction costs will come in a future request?
In a different fiscal year?
Yes, so 250 for this memo.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Okay, with that, we'll have to move quickly for the next two items because Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez needs to leave. And then I know that we need to end by 4. So you and I will finish the meeting together. Number 8.
Item number 8 is discussion regarding an installation of a bust of General Don Jose de San Martin at the Normandy Fountain Plaza. This was sponsored by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and Parks and Rec will be presenting the item.
Thank you so much. We have a little bit of a time constraint. Do you guys have your hands on the bust? Because I know it was like in Peru or something.
It is still in Peru.
So can I just bring this back in 3 months and see if the bust is here by then? Because I don't even want to go into like where it's going to go or what the plan is until we have the statue in our hands.
Why is it still there?
I do not know.
Is it ever going to get here?
I don't know. I know you want to remove it from the, we can't.
I don't want to remove it.
Not remove it, but I know, check it off the list. But unfortunately, we cannot. So we are awaiting this bust of General Don Jose de San Martin, and we'll get it one day.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we'll defer this to July 9th. In the meantime, please find out where it is.
I'm going to find out where it is.
I do have a question. Has staff reviewed the design of the bust? Does it align? Because I know the city in the past has placed a number of busts. And they're of a specific design and all that. I just want to make sure, because we're going to defer this until it's here, hopefully, but I just want to make sure, that staff has the opportunity to check the bust, the design, like do we have pictures of it?
Mr. Briand has already spent a lot of money on this design, and he will show it to you. I think it's gone to committee. It's gold, but it's great because it's Argentina. The gold, it's right there in front of the Argentine restaurant at the fountain. It's going to be fabulous.
So my question is, who reviews the design, who decides the design of busts when they get placed in a public area? Is it Arts and Public Places? Is it the DRB? Who reviews these designs?
Once you approve it here, if it is approved here, it would go to the Art and Public Places Committee.
No. Okay, I see Lisette is saying no. So let's recognize Lisette Arrogante, our Director of Culture, just to give us a little bit of guidance because I just want to understand the process.
Sure. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. Lisette Arrogante, Director of Tourism and Culture. So busts are overseen by facilities. They are not considered a work of art, so they do not go through the typical Art and Public Places review or vetting.
Okay, so in the 3 months as when this comes back, in that time, let's have facilities just review it so that they can provide us with their feedback on it.
I'll get with Lizette because I think the code says differently, but we'll work that out.
What does the code say?
I'm fairly certain that the code says busts go to Art and Public Places, but
okay, well, let's have Arts and Public. I mean,
we will review the code.
It's already been there. It's already we found a space. It's been going on for a long time.
Okay,
it's not
wait,
even here. It's
but
in Peru.
Arts and Public Places did not. Okay, I'm sorry, and because I wasn't aware of that. What did Arts and Public Places say?
Since I've been here for 5 years, we've never reviewed any of the buses that have gone in Collins Park or anywhere in the city.
And
So we
those
will look
buses,
at
I
the
think,
code.
predate the 5 years you.
No, we had some recently. They did see this one?
Okay, all right, so we'll defer this for 3 months. I just want to make sure that we understand where arts in public places falls on this and where
Yes.
facilities falls on this.
Okay,
With that, I'll move to defer the item for 3 months.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, 14.
Item number 14 is considered beautification of the alleys behind Roasters and Toasters and a Cafe Avante on the 41st Street corridor. This was sponsored by Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez, Public Works and Economic Development will be presenting.
I'm kind of in a rush here, Rodney, so I know that we were gonna pick out one or two alleys, correct?
Correct.
Have we picked one at least? I think maybe we should just start with one. Do you have a preferred alley?
For the brick treatment specifically?
Yes.
Our recommendation would be for the milling and resurfacing, primarily for cost purposes and for future maintenance, and to eliminate the settling that occurs with brick pavers and the trip hazard that it presents once the pavers shift.
Oh, okay, so with the brick pavers, it would be $260,000. I would really like to beautify this one alley. It's especially bad behind Roasters and Toasters. You must admit, it is unsightly, and I would love for them to be able to bring out some tables and chairs. And, we might not have the right-of-way right there, but you know what? Trucks could pull up, on the side of the street and still get stuff in. I would like this alleyway to somehow become pedestrianized if we brick it up. Or maybe because you can't have traffic and the pavers over the traffic. It's going to ruin it, especially if it's like garbage trucks and stuff like that. How do you suggest, if I wanted to pedestrianize an alley, how do you do that?
That's something I'd have to speak with the transportation department on. I wasn't aware in going through the memo that the intent was to turn it into.
Right, and what about the deliveries and stuff? There's always going to be stuff there.
You know what I'm going to do with this? Could we defer this
1 month?
for 1 month? And in the interim, I would like to talk to transportation about what we could potentially do to pedestrianize that part of the alley, because on the other side of 41st Street, we're spending this money, but you're not getting a lot more sidewalk. And if you wanted to put tables out there, you're literally like on a highway.
And Cafe Avanti, the back of theirs is a mess.
I would like
That
to do
needs help
Avanti.
so much.
Should we do that instead of
Yeah.
Roasters? Okay, maybe we start with the back of Cafe Avanti, but, okay, let's switch. Okay, so yes. And also, could we move this in the interim too to the 41st Street Bid Committee? Because I want them to review it also. So my direction would be to refer it to commission with a referral to the 41st Street Committee, and to bring it back here in a month to see what the process is for, the pedestrianization, because I think that's first before even beautification.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
item
I have to
11.
leave.
Item number 11 is discuss take action regarding the identification of appropriate locations for the installation of speed humps and/or speed tables in the Flamingo Park neighborhood. This item is sponsored by Commissioner Fernandez, co-sponsored by Commissioner Suarez, and Transportation will be presenting the item.
Commissioner Fernandez, you're recognized.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We've heard from the Flamingo Park neighborhood about the need to install traffic calming. There's speeding that we've seen in the area. So back in April, I referred this discussion item. I know we have Slow Streets that is coming in line, Slow Streets 2.0. That's coming in line. But the residents have raised this concern about speeding vehicle. It's happening in local residential streets. It's happening in the neighborhoods, in an area that is known for its walkability. And we know that when we have speeding cars in a pedestrian area, what it creates is a safety hazard. So I want to know, what can we do to address speeding, enhance safety, and hopefully do something long-term, but also start temporary, how we've done on 47th Street. So with that, I want to recognize O'Neill.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioner.
O'Neill Rodriguez, Assistant Director with the Transportation and Mobility Department. As you mentioned, Commissioner, the Flamingo Park Neighborhood Association has expressed concerns with speeding in the neighborhood. Consistent with our traffic calming manual, the first step that we would have to take is to conduct a traffic calming study to determine the streets and segments within the neighborhood. It would have to be a neighborhood-wide traffic study to determine the segments of the streets that warrant traffic calming. As you know, Miami-Dade County has jurisdictional authority over all traffic engineering functions and traffic flow in municipal roads, including those within our right-of-way. So that traffic study would have to be reviewed and approved by Miami-Dade County, consistent with our traffic calming manual that we have in our city. After that traffic calming manual, the traffic study has been completed and it has identified those segments in the streets or the intersections that warrant traffic calming, then we would proceed with the design of those devices, pending the recommendations of the traffic study. Again, the design would have to be reviewed and approved by Miami-Dade County prior to proceeding with the construction.
Let me ask you something. How long does the study take?
So this is a pretty dense neighborhood. There's a lot of different streets and intersections. So we're estimating approximately between 8 to 12 months from the issuance of a notice to proceed.
Okay, and if we work with a neighborhood in identifying a more narrow area, more narrowly tailored area, because perhaps, the issue might be specific streets, specific corridors, would that reduce the timetable of the study?
That could definitely reduce the timetable, as long as we narrow down the areas that we study, definitely, Commissioner.
Okay.
However, again, what takes the longest is the collection of the traffic data and the analysis of that data. So the less we collect, the faster it can be completed.
Let me ask you something. So, south of Fifth.
Yeah.
South of Fifth, they wanted to do traffic calming there. And so, but in the meantime, they put temporary traffic calming. That temporary traffic calming has been now very long temporary. So could we look at something like that here? Because sometimes, with traffic calming, it's not just doing the study program. You got to put it in your capital budget. You're talking about a 5-year, process at least. Is there a way that we could use this study for the permanent traffic calming as well? Can we use that same study for temporary traffic calming?
It can. For example, as you mentioned, Commissioner, the south of Fifth traffic calming that's how the traffic study was conducted. Those 12 locations that we installed temporary traffic calming were done on a short-term solution, and then they could become permanent after a post-implementation analysis. So it was a little different. It's not that the traffic study, or it's not that we installed the traffic the speed cushions ahead of the permanent. It's more so that we install them as a temporary measure in order to analyze how those speed cushions will respond, and after we would do the post-implementation analysis.
So, and let me just, quickly just understand, because I do think there is a safety concern. There is a safety concern with cars in a pedestrian area. There's no way that if we identify certain key locations where there is a safety concern, that where temporary calming devices can be deployed more immediately to address the safety concern. Putting aside traffic calming, one thing is traffic calming, but another thing is safety. Yeah, and that is the great concern that I think the residents of the neighborhood have, and which is why they've raised this concern so loudly to us. There's no way whatsoever when we're talking about safety to be able to deploy anything more immediate.
According to, there's parameters that we can take depending on the approach that we take. For example, West Avenue, between 6th Street and 8th Street. We're enhancing a mid-block crosswalk to a raised crosswalk. And we're doing that as a more so, not necessarily traffic calming, but from a safety perspective. So we can look at different locations that have been identified to see what the alternatives are. However, if we do proceed as a traffic calming project, that is a separate process. However, if we identify key locations with the neighborhood, we could definitely see how we can maneuver those locations when it comes to the county.
Understood, but when we're talking about traffic calming, we're talking about traffic calming as a result of, a public safety concern. And so, we can't let the safety condition continue for a year while we conduct the study and then 5 years while we go through the capital funding process. In the short term, while we do the broader, more comprehensive traffic calming implementation, I do think we need to get with these residents and identify what are those, key locations where more temporary safety devices can be deployed more immediately while we work on the longer term project.
And that's something that we could definitely work towards, Commissioner. Again, we would have to do the analysis, working in conjunction with the neighborhood association to see if first of all, if it warrants. After we determine that, we could see how we can proceed with a temporary, like you said. Meanwhile, it would work for the long term.
So perhaps, would it be appropriate for us today to consider supporting staff's recommendation to initiate the formal traffic calming study included as part of the fiscal year 26 budget process, and while simultaneously going back to the neighborhood association, identifying those key locations where it's clear that there are safety issues where more immediate deployments could be potentially achieved?
We definitely can do that.
Okay,
Yes.
so Madam Chair, if you would entertain that motion, so we can send that back to commission.
Yes, I'll second.
All right, and just for purposes of my edification, what's the difference in the timeline when we're looking at a safety device as opposed to a traffic calming device?
Again, it would depend on how many locations we're talking about. If we identified just a few locations, that's something that we can move more expeditiously. If we're looking at numerous locations, it would depend on how many we're talking about. And after we speak with a neighborhood and they identify what those locations are, we could have a better timeline for that.
Okay, so I'll have my office circle back
Yes.
with you, O'Neill. I'll have Sydney Alonso, my office,
Yes.
connect with the neighborhood association and with your office so we can schedule that meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, that's great. Next item is 16.
Item 16 is discuss developing a comprehensive citywide plan to commemorate and elevate Black History Month annually. This was sponsored by Commissioner Fernandez, co-sponsored by Commissioner Bott, and Tourism and Culture will be presenting the item.
Just opening the item.
Commissioner Fernandez and co-sponsor Commissioner Bott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just opening up the item.
I can cue it up if you
All
like,
right,
sir.
so this is an item I had referred to committee because we want to make sure that we're supporting Black-owned businesses, that we're highlighting Black role models, and that we're also engaging in feedback from our Black Affairs Advisory Committee. Last time, Lisette, you gave us a good presentation, and you provide us with a great memo, and we asked you to go back to the committee to share the memo with the Black Affairs Advisory Committee for their feedback and see if there's anything else that we should be doing. They are great partners. They work hard. I don't think that there's a harder working committee in this city than the Black Affairs Advisory Committee.
The Hispanic Affairs too.
Yes, yes. I would say actually the Black Affairs Advisory Committee might be just a little bit more active.
Then
and
even tonight, the Black Film Festival.
Yes,
We're
yes.
giving a proclamation.
Yes. So Lisette, welcome. Guide us on the feedback you received from the Black Affairs Advisory Committee.
Thank you, sir. We shared the memo the same day as the last neighborhoods meeting with the Black Affairs Advisory Committee. The Black Affairs Advisory Committee met last Tuesday, June 3rd. where we, again, brought up the memo. They had no comments. As I mentioned at the last meeting, they do review and approve our programming for historical months that include Black History Month and also Juneteenth events. What they did state is that they would like for the city to strengthen the efforts in promoting Black-owned businesses during the month of August, which is Black Business Month, was their feedback.
Okay, and can you repeat that last part? I'm sorry?
That they would like the city to strengthen their efforts in promoting Black-owned businesses during Black Business Month in August.
All right. And I think this is a good time to get that feedback because we are in the month of June. And it gives us, you know, a little bit over a month to be able to work on that. What does the administration feel we could do in terms of highlighting Black-owned businesses?
We've shared their feedback with the Economic Development Department, and so they're aware. They already do efforts during that month. They partner with the GMCBB to promote Black businesses during Miami Spice and other efforts, so I will defer to them. Any additional initiatives that we can come up with.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We gonna keep the item or close the item?
What would you like to happen?
I think I don't think we'll be having another meeting before we can even send something back to commission. I would just say let's have administration. It sounds like the administration is already working on this. It sounds they're already in communications with economic development, the GNCVB, and communications. So I think it's in your hands, and we trust you to do a good job in promoting Black-owned businesses in the month of August.
Thank you.
So we can close the item.
Okay, item number 9 is discuss the exploration of feasibility of a crisis intervention and response program that would deploy behavioral health first responders to address certain mental health crises. This was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez and co-sponsored by Commissioner Fernandez, and police will be presenting the item.
Commissioner Vice Chair Fernandez.
I see my name's listed as a co-sponsor of this item. I don't remember being a co-sponsor of this item. Yeah.
I know that Dominguez is a primary,
so Yes.
we'll research and
Thank you.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Assistant Chief Daniel Morgallo here on behalf of the Police Department. The Chief and the administration are in favor of engaging in a pilot of this program as it's been very successful in other jurisdictions, most notably in the city of Miami. However, we do have some fiscal hurdles that we need to get over if we're going to move forward with this at some point, specifically funding, as if we do engage in this co-responder model, there is a cost associated with having a clinician and a support person involved to be able to respond with the officer to the tune of $250,000 for the one-year pilot. And then we would need to identify funding beyond that. We could reallocate an officer from the department to be part of the pilot, so we wouldn't have to spend additional money internally for a police officer. However, if we were to continue the program beyond that, then we would need funding for that. And with me today, I have some distinguished members of both my organization and Habsi Kava, who runs everything CIT for Miami-Dade County, that can provide some more detail and answer questions with what the program would look like if we decide to move forward. But I did want to preface that by basically saying we do have some financial hurdles that we need to overcome at some point if we decide to move forward.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon to all. My name is George Leames. I'm a lieutenant on the day shift here. I've been here for over 20 years. Actually born in Mount Sinai Medical Center, and I happen to be now the liaison for the police agency over at Mount Sinai Medical Center. Definitely, it's an opportunity now that has presented itself. I'm a big proponent of it. I took over our CIT program about 2 years ago. I've been in touch with City of Miami Police Department, who actually took over and adopted this co-responder model as a pilot program. And immediately when it was presented to me to actually introduce this to the committee, I immediately called our subject matter experts, our training officer, Dr. Noel Castillo, our former vice president of CIT International, Ms. Hopsy Kaba, who happens to be also a licensed medical professional. When I went to when I met with Commander Jackson over with the City of Miami, they adopted this program in 2023. When they adopted the program, it was immediately seen that there was a reduction of 36% of calls for service when they implemented the co-responder model. In essence, what it is, it's a deployment. It's an on-the-field team that basically is composed of a licensed professional, a licensed medical professional, healthcare professional, with a peer support specialist and 2 trained law enforcement officers. Again, these are boots on the ground on the field. I've been sitting here and hearing, obviously all the presentations and having discussions of repairing chip sidewalks or whatnot. But I think here we can all agree that obviously in our city there's a need. There's a need to address behavioral health concerns. We can think of individuals now within our immediate families or whatnot, or within our immediate vicinities. When we walk out onto our beautiful Art Deco districts, we can think of individuals who are in dire need of this assistance. Our office, it's an asset for our officers. It's definitely a tool that they can have. The mere fact of having a co-responder team of a licensed healthcare professional on hand with us, Monday through Friday, working an 8-hour shift with us, would be a resource, again, an asset for officers to have. Now, our current data analysis that we've begun to research with our team is in 2024, we had about 907 Baker Act incidents happening. Thus far this year, as of today's date, we've had approximately 366 more or less Baker Acts. The data shows that on average, our officers are responding to Baker Act incidents about 3 times a day. When they are dispatched to these locations, it's approximately 2 to 3 officers. It takes time to assess, evaluate the individual. It takes time to transport them to the proper receiving healthcare, mental health facility to address them. And it's a reoccurring process. A lot of times these individuals are there for approximately 72 hours. We see them again the following day or 3 days later. We recently had an individual call our 911 emergency line for approximately over 100 times over a period of a few days. There's a lot of pros that come with this. Obviously, what we see now with the co-responder model, the benefits it's that it'll reduce the number of incarcerations. It'll reduce the number of involuntary examinations. Meaning what? Meaning that our jails won't be overpopulated anymore. It means that our emergency rooms over at Mount Sinai Medical Center wouldn't be overpopulated anymore because of the mere fact that we're addressing this through de-escalation techniques, through it'll reduce the amount of uses of force. Definitely, I'll reiterate, calls for service alone in the city of Miami when they adopted this program were reduced by 36%, the calls for service.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that today there have been 366 Baker Acts?
Approximately as of yesterday.
Year.
As of yesterday in 2025, we've had approximately 366 Baker Act cases.
Okay. What percentage of those are of homeless individuals?
We'd have to conduct further research on that, but I know for a fact, obviously, our unhoused individuals are a big number to that. Over, I believe, 49% of our Baker Acts are occurring in Area 1. In Area 1 during the day shift, afternoon shift hours. Now, why is this program important? Sir, to answer your question, it's because when the City of Miami adopted this program, they called it the High Utilizer program. So in essence, what the licensed clinician and the peer support specialist, which in this case, City of Miami works with West Care Rehabilitation Center, who will provide, and they've come forward and they've actually advised me that they're willing to partner with us in a collaborative effort to do this. So to answer your question, when Miami adopted this program, the peer support specialist did a continuum of care. The continuum of care basically is they identify a certain individual Once they identify the certain individual, in this case, if it happens to be an unhoused individual, once they identify this individual, they continue to follow up with this individual to ensure that they're getting the proper therapy, the proper treatment.
But don't we do that already? I thought that we are already engaging with the homeless individuals. We have certain level of case management through New Hope, through Camilla's House. They have the Lazarus Project that also specializes on mental health issues. And so, you know, we have a homeless issue in our city. I feel that probably a significant amount of the 366 bake racks that we've had this year, as of yesterday, the 907 that we had last year, I would imagine a significant number of them relate to homeless individuals. And the episodes they are having in public require more than a simple interaction to avoid an arrest or placing them in a facility with the goal of lowering the amount of jail population or lowering the amount of people in treatment beds. To the contrary, I think at times we need more people in treatment beds. We know that we don't have enough treatment beds. You know, I see the separate side to this, the legitimate situations, domestic calls, people who are having emergencies at home. There are mental health emergencies that people do have at home. That's an area where, you know, I do see this being a benefit. I know the county and other entities have explored these types of programs. I would like to see a little bit more data because this is a very big shift. I feel this is a very big shift as it relates to how we address a very sensitive segment of calls. Because I do believe that perhaps these bake rack calls might be some of the most dangerous calls that our police department gets, Assistant Chief.
Sir, yes, absolutely. They could be among the most dangerous. And if I could just address the first part when you mentioned all the other services that are available. I think the biggest difference between this particular service and some of the other services available is that this is designed to engage with people that are in crisis, not just people that are having day-to-day mental health and exhibiting mental health behaviors as a result of things that are either untreated or currently being treated or not being treated properly. This is to engage with people that are in crisis, either a threat to themselves or someone else.
But we do not train for crisis intervention?
We have a large percentage of our officers that are crisis intervention trained, and every police.
I really have concern, and I'm sorry, you know, and I would just, you know, I would like just to get a little bit more information. I get very concerned about putting unsworn individuals in highly dangerous scenarios that are perhaps the most dangerous calls that our police officers have to respond to, where now not only are they looking out for their own safety and the safety of those who are initiating a call, but now also the safety of an unsworn person that, for as much as they might be a mental health professional, the officer now has to look out for that person's safety as well. So, you know, we do have police officers that specialize in crisis intervention. To me, it almost seems a bit duplicitous. You know, our officers get trained on de-escalation.
Yes, sir.
And so I see we have someone that's approached the podium, and I would love, you know, your guidance. You seem like you're calming me down already about this. So you clearly have a vocation and a talent.
Yes, it's called active listening, Commissioner.
Active
Yes,
listening.
which all of our officers have this CIT, Crisis Intervention Team training. I have been in the field of mental health for 32 years now. 22 of those years I've been working in public safety and have the honor of working with law enforcement. Also, I've had the privilege of working on an international and national level, being able to witness different communities. Approximately 41% of communities in the nation have co-responder models. And your questions are very valid and asked by every community member and official once these initiatives are introduced. Yes, officers receive crisis intervention training that makes them more informed and aware of what mental illness looks like, how to identify the signs and symptoms, how to de-escalate, and how to make a situation safer. But the component that we are missing here, which is a national best practice, is having that clinician on site. It's having the most expert professionals approaching in an alternative, more collaborative approach in responding to your community members, as well as, of course, your residents and your tourists. Imagine that there's
Is that a CALIA best practice?
That is a CIT International best practice, which many police agencies throughout the nation that, of course, are CALIA accredited do have to meet those standards of having, best practices, actually a specialized unit. Because every officer can go through CIT training, and that's wonderful for every officer to have this training, which Miami Beach PD does send all of their officers through. But then you lose the specialization. Where's the specialization of that officer that responds? If you have a active shooter, you have SRT responding, right? Because they are the experts. When you have a mental health call, yes, you have a CIT officer, but you don't have that person who can stop the cycle. What officers are able to do now is to be able to better identify that this person needs help. They don't know what kind of help exactly, of course not. They didn't go to medical school, they don't have a license in mental health, but they know that they need help. So now they take them to, let's say, Mount Sinai, for example. But then maybe a few hours, a few days, maybe a week or so, they're back in the streets. And really, honestly, they'll see them one day after or the same day back on the streets. So what we're doing is creating this vicious cycle and this revolving door. What can a clinician do for you? A clinician on site can assess the situation and more appropriately evaluate what do they need at that moment. Many times, it's not that they're meeting Baker Act criteria because they're more qualified to see a wider scope of the criteria of the Baker Act. And so they say what they need here is, A and B. And then they can pool those resources. That also decreases, as the lieutenant really did a great job of explaining the co-responder model. But it's not only a clinician, there's many alternatives. Having EMT, having a peer like we all know our beloved Bo Hall. Miami Beach actually had the first co-responder model in Miami-Dade County, not the city of Miami, not the sheriff's office, you did. And you did it really without realizing that you had a national best practice here. And how successful has that model served? You continue to be the only police agency in the state of Florida that has this initiative on the Substance Abuse Act.
So let me just ask you.
Yes.
You are with, I'm sorry?
So, I apologize for not introducing myself. I am with the 11th Judicial Circuit, the Criminal Mental Health Project with Judge Steve Leifman, who, sadly just retired, but he's still very much involved. Of course, he doesn't retire. And working towards our Miami Center of Recovery, because that is also going to be a wonderful asset to Miami-Dade County, because then it will be another source of serving those that are most difficult to serve in our communities. If I may approach you, I have a one-page fact sheet that I mentioned, there's approximately 2,500 co-responder teams in the U.S., and I took the liberty of selecting 3 departments in the nation that are comparable to Miami Beach Police Department. And I just wanted you to get a snapshot of what their cost savings have been, in addition to some of their, as well, initiatives and the funding sources, right? Because, of course, everyone wants to know numbers, outcomes, and funding sources. I I know in my heart that Miami Beach Police Department, I've been working with them for over 20 years, has always been very forward-thinking in their initiatives. I was hoping, this was on my wish list for a few years, that Miami Beach Police Department would be ready to do this initiative. And so I said, I'm on board. I'm happy to help in every way possible. I have been working with many different police agencies throughout the nation to implement their co-responder model, to see the outcomes. And also, we're now working with Spain. I was there recently, and we are beginning to implement CIT and co-responder model, in Spain as well.
Here's what I'd like to do in the interest of time.
Yes.
I'd like to continue this for July 9th. My initial thought was to, during that time, meet with the police and have a discussion about what it would entail to move an officer rather than having funding above and beyond, because this will be a tight fiscal year. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, that's great. And if in the meantime, we could get some more data as to the types of calls, and when we look at the city of Miami, what were the type of calls that, that reduced? We know that there was a drop on calls and the drop on the arrests. Were they homeless calls? Were they domestic violence calls? Were they drug-related, drug intervention calls? Just so that we better understand from a neighboring city the impact there.
I'll reach out to you to set up some time.
Absolutely, we'll be ready.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you.
And Commissioner Dominguez, this is a very compassionate approach, and it really, I think, aligns very well with the values that we're trying to advance. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Item 10.
Item number 10 is discuss the police department's minimum age and educational requirements for the hiring of certified police officers and police officer trainees. This is sponsored by Commissioner Fernandez, and Police and Human Resources will be presenting the item.
Hi again.
Hello again, good afternoon. Assistant Chief Daniel Morgallo here on behalf of the Police Department with the HR Director.
Do you want to tee this up, or do you want them?
Yes, and thank you, Madam Chair. So this is an item that has been in my mind for a while. I think we are one of the cities that has perhaps one of the most strictest requirements, hiring requirements for police officers. And I think it's something that we should be proud of. But I also do know for a while, we have had a high number of vacancies in the department. I know Chief Wayne Jones is working incredibly hard, and I know he has a goal, and I'm sure we're going to be meeting that goal of, by the end of the year, that we will be having full staffing of our police department. And it sounds like something that's not significant. It is significant. It is significant because it's been for years, for chiefs now, that we have not had full staffing. I think that needs to be recognized. But at the same time, I see how, police officers don't always need to have a college degree. They need to have ambition, a desire to be engaging with the community, to identify bad guys and bad girls and approach them, and be able to have a talent and a vocation to enforce the law and to bring calm when there's tension, and to de-escalate and protect the community. And a lot of times, I use the word vocation, these are not things that people learn in school. They get training on how to fine-tune this vocation that they have, but it's not something that I truly feel we need to have, a full degree before someone is hired. And so, Chief, the department has done an analysis on this. I would love to get the feedback of the department and a path forward on this.
So good afternoon, Commissioner. Assistant Chief Morgallo here on behalf of the Police Department. I just want to start off by, providing the current status of where we are as far as a department and staffing. Because we're currently budgeted for 437. We have 417 positions filled. So we're only 20 positions open, which is about 5%. So we're 95% staffed. which is above and beyond what the majority of law enforcement agencies in the country are right now, while we still have among the paths for folks to get hired, that requirement for a college degree. That is not the only path. There are multiple paths to get hired, and the HR director can go into them in detail. But I want to kind of start out by saying that we, as one of the most professional accredited law enforcement agencies, have enjoyed the ability to be 95% staffed at a time when the majority of law enforcement agencies out there are 20 to 40% understaffed, while we maintained our hiring standards. What we're seeing is that 85 to 90% of applicants that are eligible to apply don't make it through our hiring process. Our hiring process is hard. We only take the cream of the crop to put this badge and this patch on, which is what our residents and what this community deserves and expects. In addition to that, of the ones that we hire, we end up losing maybe 10 to 15% through the training process. So with all of those hurdles to overcome, we have still been able to reach 95% of staffing, working closely with the HR director and developing a strategy to hire the best and to attract the best candidates. Some of the things that we've changed is our recruiting tactics, where we've actually gone out and gone to different universities, gone to different training centers throughout the state, different parts of the country, to basically, like you would try to recruit for a college football team, go out and find the best candidates to apply for the organization. So although part of the process requires, for one of the pathways requires a college degree, there are multiple pathways that folks can apply to the department. And I'll turn it over to the HR director so she can highlight that for you.
Good afternoon, committee and chair. My name is Marla Alpiz, our HR director. There is in your packet, and I don't want to read the entire chart, but there is a summary chart that does, the final column does give the current status of the multiple pathways that a person can qualify to meet the minimum requirements to become a police officer trainee without a certification. Those individuals go through the academy, or to come on board as a certified police officer. Those might be someone that has put themselves through the academy, or that might be someone that has served as an officer with distinction in another jurisdiction and then decides to come to a larger department here at Miami Beach.
But let me ask you, and I see here what it says here that, officers with a bachelor's degree are the ones that are able to have critical thinking, are the ones that are emotionally intelligent, are the ones that, can engage in teamwork, in technical skills. I think it goes back to this stigma that is being created in our society, that you need to, go through a 4-year college education, put yourself in debt in order to have critical thinking skills.
No, sir.
In order to have emotional intelligence.
No, some of that.
No, but that's what we've put in writing.
Some of those.
And I think people who don't have a college degree won't agree with that. I think there are people who don't have a college degree who are creative, who are able to work as part of a team.
Of course.
Let me ask you: has our higher bar, this education requirement, what has that shown us in terms of our vacancies? Have we been able to address our vacancies with a higher bar?
We are hiring at a higher rate than we ever have before, mainly because of what Assistant Chief Margallo is saying about the aggressive and intensive recruitment that we're doing.
What was the vacancy rate before the higher educational requirements?
So we have snapshots of the educational requirements over the past 10 years here. And I can't tell you back in time what was the vacancy rate at 2015, 2018, 2019, 2021, and 2024. I will say that
So in 2021 was when we introduced that they must be at least 25 years of age?
No, if I could just back up a little bit. In addition to filling vacancies, which are because police officers retire and then move on, those would be filling the vacancies due to attrition. We have added a significant number of police positions over the past 5-6 years, which meant that we were keeping up with adding to fill vacancies that the commission added to our workforce, as well as filling the attrition rate. We are hiring at
And requested by the police department a lot of times too. It's not
Of
just the
course.
commission doing it.
Of course,
It's by
so we're
request of the
hiring at a
police
rate
department.
that both meets our attrition as well as fills our vacancies that are because of an expanded police force. The current status of our minimum requirements, there are 4 ways to become a police officer, not one. We worked very hard, and when I say we, I mean HR, Chief Jones and his staff, as well as the FOP and the Personnel Board, where in July we did a major revision of the minimum requirements, all the way through approval of the Personnel Board. We lowered the age from, and again, there's 2 tracks. There's the track of you have a certification, and there's the track of you don't have a certification yet. So to talk about the track that you do have a certification, we kept the same. You could be 21 with a bachelor's degree. That did not change, path 1. We didn't change the second path. The second path was 21 with 3 years of military. That stayed the same. The third path, we lowered. It was 21 with 60 college credits, like an AA equivalent, and 3 years as an officer somewhere else. We lowered that to
So they would have started at 18 as a police officer somewhere else.
19. State law says 19.
Okay.
So the third
So
path,
like the city of Miami, they have 19. So they could have started in the city of Miami and then come over here.
yes. The third path is 21 years old. We took away the AA requirement, so that's lowering the standard, and we said instead of 3 years of verifiable good standing experience in another jurisdiction, you can have 2 years. So we did that to compete better with other jurisdictions that had a 2-year requirement. So that was the third path. The fourth path to become a police officer who's certified, it used to be 25 years old, and that's it, with a certification. We were getting people apply that were 25 years old, had put themselves through the academy, and had no other positive aspects to show. So, you know, you talked about some of the research that that was highlighted in the memo about emotional intelligence, or showing that you're a person that can accomplish and complete things, that you're a person that would be good in the workforce. You can look back at my work history and see that I would be good in the workforce. There's many, many ways that you can see that a candidate for an officer will be a great employee. And you want to see some of those things. So that requirement where we said just be 25 years old and have a certification didn't have a minimum that was a path to show what else someone could do. So we changed it to be, let's drop it from 25 to 23, but let's say that you have 3 years of verifiable and progressive work experience. You need to show that you have done something in this length of time. So that is how the requirements for certified officers slightly changed up and down. All of those things as a whole and as a totality, we think is resulting in a better candidate. And all of that was fully discussed and vetted with HR, with the police, and with the FOP. And all of those comments and all of those all of the research all went to the Personnel Board, who then, with changes recommended to the chief, which the chief agreed to, voted on a change of police officer requirement last July, which is the result you see here.
You know, I don't necessarily agree that someone that's 23 years old, that hasn't had a relevant, you know, military experience, or that hasn't been working as a security guard, or that doesn't have this relevant experience, why should they be not considered?
They are considered, sir.
Without a degree?
Yes, sir.
Without a degree
Yes, sir.
and without experience?
without a degree, you can be 3 years in the military.
3 years in the military.
Without a degree, you can have 2 years as an officer somewhere else. And without a degree, you can be 23 and show 3 years of verifiable progressive work experience.
But I think it's very difficult. I think when people start at a department, they stick with a department. And so when you say 23, but you have 2 years somewhere else, that department is getting those police officers when they have their most energy, when they want to be active, when they want to be outside of their cars, when they want to be walking, when they want to be engaging, when they have that fire inside of them to go after bad guys and bad girls and, fight crime, is when they have that energy. And other departments are getting what I consider to be, at that point, these younger, more energetic people that have the best to offer at that point before we're getting them, because we're disqualifying ourselves from being able to get them. And I have great respect for those officers who have gone through school and who have had the patience and the ability and the critical thinking skills and the emotional intelligence to sit through, lectures in college. But I also have great respect for those that don't have that ability, who might not have the ability to sit through college lectures, but who have the desire, the passion, the ability to fight crime. And I think we are losing those individuals with these requirements. We're saying, well, you first have to start in Miami-Dade County, where the age is 21, or you first have to start at Fort Lauderdale, where you only need to have a high school diploma, or you first have to start in the city of Miami, where they'll take you before we bring you here. But you know how it's like. They become part of a culture. They won't leave that culture. Chief Margallo, how many years have you been with the Miami Beach Police Department?
Almost 26, sir.
Almost 26 years. The officers in the room, sir, in the back, how many years have you been with the Miami Beach Police Department?
18, sir.
18 years. And sir?
21.
21 years. And executive officer, how many years have you been here? 20 years. And so the moment someone starts at a department, the likelihood that we're going to get them to leave is very unlikely. And so I just feel that I have great respect for individuals, even if they're not able to go through college, even if they don't have 3 years of military experience, even if they don't have an AA, because I do think that they can still contribute towards a safer community. And I feel very strongly about that. And I think a good middle ground might be, once vacancies hit a certain percentage, then at that point we lower the requirement. Because we are entering a society where people have lost respect for law enforcement. And then we have young people that want to enter the field of law enforcement and engage in our crime-fighting initiatives, but then we're saying, well, I'm sorry, but you're not a military guy. I'm sorry, you don't have an AA. I'm sorry, you haven't worked in another department. We're turning them away. And it's something that I just see going forward. We're going to have to recruit every single young person that wants to be in law enforcement. We need to embrace them, because we are entering a society that loses respect for law enforcement. And unless we get these young people early, we're going to get people that are way into their career. We're going to have to end up paying them more because they're further into their career, or they left another department because something bad happened.
Commissioner, where would you like this item to go?
I think this should go to the commission. I think this should go to the commission.
Not everyone is cut out for college. I do know that we're Miami Beach and they're trying to look at the best of the best, but the best of the best can come in many different fashions.
I think we should identify a threshold. And maybe this is something that staff can work on when this goes back to commission. A threshold that once we hit a certain threshold of vacancies, then we look at a wider range. I respect very much the position of the chief, but I also need to look at the future of this community and of this agency.
To the chair. If I could put 2 points of record, please. First is that about 30 to 40% of the files that are being signed for hire are individuals from other agencies. So of the certified officer group, many of them are getting 2 years experience somewhere and coming to Miami Beach. And just for the information of the commission, the salary that they start at is the beginning of the range, just like everyone else. We feel, and when I say we, I think I'm comfortable speaking for the chief, because we do review many of these files together. We feel that the requirements where last year the chief decided to thoughtfully reduce some requirements and raise other requirements with the endorsement of the personnel board, we do feel strongly that the quality of our applicants that we are signing has improved, and we are getting very good candidates, and we're very excited to be able to complete our vacancies soon.
Thank you, Marla. So we'll
Thank
move
you.
this to the full commission, and
And
then
I
we'll
just-
wrap up the last item.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to say, if, let's say, we do create opportunities for those individuals, all that we're doing is we're creating opportunities for the city to consider a segment of individuals who might be able to contribute to the mission of our highly rated and highly respected police department. But it doesn't stop us from being able to hire those highly qualified individuals that you've mentioned, Madam Director, who you're hiring at 30 and 40% that have, you know, those years of experience already and that have those degrees. This doesn't stop you. I don't understand why we wouldn't want to have a wider scope when at the end of the day, you as the HR director, the chief as the chief, as the head of the department, continue to have the ability to decide whether to hire these individuals or not. Why not give individuals who might not be able to afford to go to college and want to support the mission of this agency the ability to do it? We don't change your ability to be able to hire the ones that you feel to be most qualified.
100%. All right, let's move on. We'll send this to the full commission. Thank you very much. I agree with
Madam
you.
Chair.
And last item, number 6.
Item number 6, discuss a potential parking program with discounted parking rates for educational institutions and education-related organizations. This was sponsored by Commissioner Fernandez, co-sponsored by Ball, and parking will be presenting.
Madam Chair, I need to get some more information. I'm not ready to take up this item just yet.
Okay, anything to even bring up at all for any?
I just need to
consider
get
here?
some background information, so we could continue
Okay.
to next month.
Sorry, guys, we'll continue it to the next one. And you have an announcement to make about an LGBT event happening today.
Today at 5 p.m. at the Euclid Circle, everyone's invited to celebrate with us Pride Month in conjunction with the LGBTQIA Advisory Committee. And I also want to just put out a shout out. My office has welcomed a new aide, Sydney Alonso. She joins my legislative aide, Cara Petrella. And we are so fortunate for the opportunity that the public gives us to serve them. The doors to our office are always open to address any constituent concerns you may have. Feel free to reach out. My email is alex@miamibeachfl.gov, and Sydney and Cara will be more than happy to assist with any issues you may have.
I'll piggyback with that, and I have 2 fabulous aides as well, and Albert Rosales and Julian Desroys, and you can reach out to them or myself at any time, and it's our honor to serve you and the city of Miami Beach. All right, team, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff.
Give me a dirty look.
Did I just miss it?